Hello, everyone, and welcome to Lowwapanews, a program made by Scouts for Scouts, right here in the Northeastern Pennsylvania Council. My name is Leo Cahagius, and welcome to all of our viewers from throughout Pennsylvania and across the country. On this week's episode, we'll be reviewing the ever-essential skill, plant identification. Before that, though, we go to Lowwapanews weather correspondent Nick Sherman for the weather report. Nick, what can you tell us about the weather out there?
So the weather's going to do one of two things. There's going to be a big star called the sun shining in the sky, or there's going to be little drops of water, maybe even big drops of water, falling from the sky. One thing I can tell you, though, is that half of the week, that big star is going to be shining with a couple clouds here and there. But the other half of the week, those drops of water are going to be falling from the sky. Leo, back to you.
Thanks, Nick. The sun's out and the weather is getting warmer, which means there are green things growing practically everywhere. For more on that, we go to Goose Pond Scout Reservation's very own Stephen Frankowitz to learn how to identify some local plants.
Hey everybody, I'm Stephen Frankowitz from Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, Troop 55, and welcome to my backyard. So pretty much today I'm going to show you about many types of plants and stuff you should watch out for while you're out in the woods. So, you know, with us being locked in our houses for at least 2 months now and things are finally starting to go back to normal, a lot of you guys are going to want to go outside again, and I don't blame you. And when you go out into the woods, there's a lot of plants to look for. Some plants are really cool, some of them are really bad. I have a few examples of each in my yard. I have a really big yard and there's a lot of plants growing in it. So I'm going to take you around my yard and show you some plants and maybe you could learn a thing or two. This is the honeysuckle. So this is a type of flower and it grows on a bush, as you can see. This is a very popular plant with the bees. They like to go in this bush all the time. It's too early in the morning for a lot of them to be out right now, but later in the day there's going to be a lot. So this is actually one of my favorite plants that I have in my yard because the honeysuckle actually has I guess a hidden snack, as you could call it. I'll show you right now. So if you take one of the flowers, I'll bring it up to the camera. So if you take one of the flowers, right, and grab the pestils right here, you see right here, there's this little thing you could grab right here. If you're very delicate with it, and make sure there's no bees inside of it, and if you pull it very slowly, there's a little drop of nectar on the end, and it's like a sweet little snack. You just kind of suck on it. Honeysuckle. I guess that's how it got its name. So the next plant I have in my yard is these trees back here on the back side of my fence. These are eastern red cedars, and these trees are very popular with yard design and stuff because of how much space they take up. So they're very good for like putting on walls, and, just kind of making a little barrier from the outside, because there is a road right here, but you can't see it because of all the eastern red cedars. This is a very interesting plant because it is an evergreen, but it doesn't really have needles, and all the leaves on it are flat. I'll bring one up and show you. So as you can see right here, all the leaves on it are completely flat, and they also have little like beads. So this is a very interesting tree, but it's also a very identifiable tree. All right, so the next plant I have here is a rose. We used to have a really big rose bush in my yard, but as of recently, it's been struggling. So it's pretty much been reduced to these two roses here. You could tell these are roses, obviously, by their red flower. But if you look closely, they have red thorns as well, and that's a really good way to tell that these are roses. It used to be really nice when we had our rose bush. We had a lot of like roses to, you know, maybe put in the flowers for Mother's Day and stuff like that. But this plant has been struggling. All the weeds have been coming up and taking it over. But this is a rose. Actually, this is move this leaf out of the way. This is a good example right here of a rose. That is a very nice looking flower. All right, so this bush next to me here is a lilac bush. It's not in bloom anymore. It really only blooms in like April and May. As of now, the flowers have already kind of started to wilt away. But when this plant is blooming, the flowers smell really nice. I mean, I can't lie, it smells really good. But the lilac bush is also a very popular bush with the bees. So you will see a lot of bees around this bush. The flowers are like a purplish white kind of color, and very popular with like Febreze sprays, laundry detergent, and stuff like that. It's a very popular scent. This bush has been here pretty much as long as I've been alive, and it's a really nice bush. I can't say anything bad about it, really. Alright, so the next plant that I have is a dangerous one. This plant growing here right on the fence, this is poison oak. So you see the leaves of 3. I'm not going to touch it, but you see 1, 2, 3, and the leaves are very oily. That is a very good indicator that this is a poisonous plant when the leaves are oily like that. This plant's also growing in a vine up from the ground. That's also a good way to tell that it is a poisonous plant. So poison oak is kind of like the same as poison ivy and poison sumac. Whenever you touch it, the oils on the plant will give you a rash. I touched this plant a few weeks ago doing yard work, and I got a bad rash on my arm, and I didn't even know what it was until I came here and actually looked at the plant. If I knew it was here, I probably would have been a little more careful, but I did not know that this was here. So this is a plant that you have to watch out for. If you ever get touched with a poisonous plant, it's a good idea to wash any clothes in a separate wash from any of your other clothes, just to get all those oils off. That way next time you put your clothes on, you don't get a bad rash. And it's also a good idea to get some calamine lotion and put that on. That will get rid of the rash a lot faster than just sitting there and waiting for it to go away. It's also a good idea to wash the rash with soap and water as soon as you get it. That way you get those oils off. Alright, so the next plant we have here is mint. And mint is a very identifiable plant. So the first thing you could tell about mint right away is the smell. So mint smells very much like mint. It's very popular with the bugs too, apparently. So mint is a very easy to identify plant. You just break off one of the leaves, and smelling that smells exactly like mint. Pretty much like mint gum. And another thing to identify mint by is the stem. So you see how the stem is completely square? That is a good way to identify mint. Mint is a very popular plant with gums, and it's also really good in tea. Whenever we make iced tea homemade, we get a bunch of mint leaves and we put it into the tea. Okay, so the last plant I have for you guys is a cool one. So this is a flower, and this is called a bleeding heart. So if you look at these flowers, you see how they look like hearts? I'll zoom in on one of them for you. So see, they look like hearts, and there's a little like drop on the end of them. These are bleeding hearts, and they're really awesome looking flowers just because of the way they grow. This is a new plant to my yard, and it kind of just came up. We don't really know where it came from, but it's a really awesome plant, as you can see.
Thanks, Steven. Up next, we go to Shane McAuliffe for this week's Scouting Riddle.
What's going on, guys? Shane McAuliffe, treasurer of Lowwapanews Lodge here, and I have a riddle for you guys today. So the riddle goes like this. What occurs once in a minute, twice in a moment, but never in an hour? I'll let you pause the video so you can think about that. The answer is the letter M. Thank you for your time, and you guys stay safe out there and stay scouting.
Thanks, Shane. While the letter M might happen only once in a minute, it happens twice in a Scoutmaster's Minute. Today, our Scoutmaster's Minute will be given by our Lodge Advisor, Mr. Manello.
Hi, I'm Mike Manello. I'm the Lodge Advisor for Lowwapanews Lodge, and I've been asked to give this week's Scoutmaster Minute for Lowwapanews, and I'm happy to do so. What a week it's been in our country. We have seen many of our fellow Americans throughout our nation exercise their rights and duties as citizens, and yet, unfortunately, we have seen a few, which I'm sure are not Scouts, not act as good citizens. Citizenship is a major part of our program in the Boy Scouts of America. In fact, we have 3 merit badges: citizenship in the community, citizenship in the nation, and citizenship in the world, that are required to become an Eagle Scout. And in scouting, we treat everyone as equals. In fact, we wear our uniform. Though some of us may have different patches than the others, but it shows that we're all equal, that we have shared values and beliefs. And we also have our oath and our law that we not only say in our weekly meetings when we're together, but we live day in and day out in our daily lives. And yet, earlier in the week, we have seen what we can accomplish as Americans. At the beginning of this week, we saw astronauts Robert Behnken and Doug Hurley lift off from Pad 39 at Cape Canaveral in an American-made rocket from American-made soil and connect with the International Space Station. I was as happy for that moment as I was when I was a 14-year-old boy sitting there in front of my black and white TV, yes, a black and white TV, watching grainy pictures of the astronauts lift off from that same pad and the grainy pictures that came back from the surface of the moon when astronaut Neil Armstrong first set foot upon the surface of the moon. And by the way, Neil Armstrong's an Eagle Scout, so we should be proud of that too. Now, scouting has changed for us over the last few months with the pandemic. In fact, our scout camps are closed for the first time in 100 years. That we're not going to be able to get together and see what great things could happen at a scout camp. But that rocket launch this week should show you that as Americans we can do great things when we work together. And in scouting we do that. And we have a lot of values that we teach. And who knows, maybe someday one of you scouts, maybe one of those next astronauts that either walk on the surface of the moon, walk on the surface of Mars, or whatever, wherever that brings you. But keep up your scouting. I know we still cannot meet together in person, but you should be meeting virtually. If you're not with your unit, talk to your unit leaders. Keep scouting going, and I'm sure we'll all be back together soon. And keep up the good work as scouts and continue to be the best that America has to offer. Thank you, and hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much, Mr. Manello. That's the end of this week's episode of Lowwapanews. Remember, you can contribute to the program as well by emailing lowapanews@lowapanews.org for more information. That email address can be found in the description of this video. Until next week, this has been Leo Cahages, reminding you to stay safe, wash your hands, and watch Lowwapanews.